Picture a woman standing at her kitchen counter on an ordinary Tuesday, brewing coffee. She isn't doing anything unusual. She isn't visualizing anything. She isn't reciting affirmations. She isn't sitting with her eyes shut, straining to feel some wish already granted. She's just making coffee. Half her attention is on whether she answered that one work email. She notices, vaguely, that the light through the window looks a shade softer than it did yesterday. From the outside, this is about as unremarkable a morning as a morning can be. And somewhere in the quiet back corner of her mind, with no real effort behind it, she's thinking about the fact that she now owns her own business. Not thinking about it like a far-off dream. Not thinking about it with a rush of excitement. Not treating it like something she's actively trying to summon into being. She's holding it with the same flat, almost indifferent certainty she's holding the coffee, the light, the unanswered email, as a plain fact, as something she already has, as something woven into the fabric of her regular life. Here's what makes this moment so striking. She doesn't actually run her own business yet. Nothing has shifted in her outer circumstances. Her bank balance hasn't moved. No clients have shown up. There's no office. Nothing visible confirms any of it. And yet, internally, in the low-key way she's carrying this fact through her morning, it has already become just as settled and unremarkable as her coffee. It's done, not with a bang, with a shrug. 6 months down the road, through paths she can't yet map out, her business will be up and running. And when she eventually looks back at this particular Tuesday, she won't remember it as some dramatic turning point. It'll look, in memory, like nothing happened. And yet this was the exact instant her manifestation became unavoidable. Because on that morning, she stopped relating to her desire as a desire, and started relating to it as a fact so mundane, it barely registered. Tonight I want to unpack why this quiet, almost dull inner shift is one of the most potent moves available anywhere in the law of assumption. Why the sheer plainness of your inner declaration is exactly what makes it real. Why nearly every manifestation teaching out there has skipped over the single most important word, dull. And why, once this clicks for you, the gap between you and everything you've been chasing suddenly shrinks. Turn it mundane and watch it show up. That's the entire teaching. Here's why it holds up. First, let me walk you through something about your own mind, because without this piece, none of the rest will make sense. There's a quiet gatekeeper living inside you. Its job isn't to hurt you or sabotage your dreams. Its job is to keep your sense of identity steady. Whenever something new arrives, a thought, an image, a claim about who you are, that gatekeeper checks it against the version of yourself that's been running the show for years. If the new thought lines up with the existing self, the gatekeeper waves it through, and it slides quietly into place. If the new thought conflicts with that existing self, the gatekeeper flags it, blocks it, pushes it right back out. This gatekeeper is the reason so many people hit a wall trying to manifest. They sit down for 15 minutes of visualization, picture the mansion, the perfect partner, the dramatic life overhaul, feel a quick spike of excitement, and then something inside them quietly shuts the whole thing down. The excitement fizzles, the picture dissolves, and they go right back to being the same person they were an hour earlier, because the gatekeeper did exactly what it's built to do. It measured the mansion against 30 years of self-concept, and the mansion simply didn't fit. Most people don't even know this gatekeeper exists. They assume their trouble holding on to a new assumption is some personal flaw, weak belief, poor discipline. But it isn't. It's a completely normal part of how the mind keeps the self stable. Every single mind runs this check, constantly, in the background. And every mind, yours included, rejects the majority of new assumptions that show up carrying too much force, too much excitement, too much drama. Here's where tonight's teaching starts to become genuinely useful, Because that gatekeeper has one very specific blind spot. It doesn't reject the mundane. It has no reason to. Its only job is protecting the self from disruption. And mundane things don't disrupt anything. A thought that shows up quietly, wearing the clothing of everyday life, carrying no heat and no fanfare and no big claim. The gatekeeper just lets it right through. It looks like nothing at all. It looks exactly like every other small, forgettable thought the mind has been having all day long, and in it slips. That's why the single most powerful thing you can do when installing a new assumption about your life is making it dull. Not thrilling, not dramatic, no fireworks whatsoever, just a plain fact. A quiet, offhand, forgettable fact. Something that could be true, something that already is true. Something so unremarkable, it barely earns a second glance. Once it's dressed in the clothes of the mundane, the assumption slips right past the gatekeeper without any resistance at all. And once it's past that gate, it begins folding itself into the architecture of the self. And from that architecture, faithfully, the outer world starts rearranging itself to match. The extraordinary shows up precisely when you dress it in the clothes of the ordinary. That's the whole mechanism. That's the entire secret. Now here's something that will sound backwards at first, because it contradicts nearly everything most manifestation teachers say. Excitement about your desire is one of the very reasons it hasn't arrived yet. Not because excitement is bad, and not because you're forbidden from wanting things, but because excitement, at a mechanical level, signals to your gatekeeper that something large and unusual is being proposed, something that doesn't currently fit, something asking to disrupt the existing structure of your life. And the gatekeeper, whose sole job is guarding that structure's stability, does precisely what it's designed to do. It marks the incoming assumption as foreign, and gently, quietly, refuses to let it settle in. This is exactly why so many people can visualize with real passion for weeks, months, even years, and see absolutely nothing shift. The passion itself is what gives the game away. Every burst of excited visualization is a small alarm bell for the gatekeeper. This is different. This isn't currently me. A big claim is being staked here. And the gatekeeper, loyal to its function, keeps steering them right back to the self they've always been. Excitement generates its own resistance. The very intensity of the reaching confirms, at some deep layer of the mind, that whatever's being reached for isn't yet part of the self. Now consider the opposite. Consider what happens when you think about your desire the same way you think about your bins going out on Thursday. No fireworks, no heat, no drama. Just the quiet, settled, faintly bored certainty of someone stating a plain fact about their plain life. Yes, I run my own business. Yes, we live in that house now. Yes, I'm in that relationship. Yes, my body feels good. Of course. Not proclaimed, not affirmed, just quietly, factually true. The same tone you'd use for yes, my kettle boils water, or yes, the sun will rise, or yes, my keys are on the hook. The gatekeeper doesn't flag ordinary facts. There's simply no reason for it to. So this quiet, dull, offhand assumption glides right past the gate, folds itself into the architecture, and begins invisibly rearranging your inner ground. No fanfare whatsoever. Just the small, quiet installation of a new fact into the self. This, at its deepest layer, is what the tradition has always meant by living in the state of the wish fulfilled. It was never about excitement. It has always been about the settled, casual, of-courseness of someone who already has. That inner tone isn't a reward you get after manifesting. It's the actual mechanism by which manifestation happens. And the people who receive most easily are the ones who somehow, knowingly or not, stopped treating their desires like dramatic breakthroughs and started treating them like dull, ordinary facts about the life they're already living. Dull, in the sense I'm using it, doesn't mean boring in the negative sense. Dull is simply free of the friction that drama creates. Dull is what the ordinary feels like from the inside. And the ordinary is exactly what the gatekeeper lets through without a fight. Let me give you a picture, because this only really sinks in once you can feel it. Think about all the things in your life you take completely for granted. Not the special things, the totally mundane ones. That your fridge keeps humming along. That water flows the second you turn the tap. That your phone finds the internet. That your keys are, right now, sitting exactly where you left them. That the sun will rise again tomorrow morning. That flipping a light switch turns the light on. Notice how you actually hold these facts. You don't need to believe in them. You don't affirm them out loud. You don't visualize your fridge running properly. You don't sit in meditation trying to raise your vibration to match a working kettle. You don't stand in front of a light switch making declarations at it. You simply know these things. With a certainty so quiet and deep, you don't even register that you're knowing them. To you, they're just dull facts. They live so far down inside the settled structure of your life that they require zero inner effort. That's the frequency of the ordinary, and it's unmistakably the frequency of already having. The fridge works because it's baked into the settled structure of your life. The light switch works for the same reason. Your keys sit where they sit because their location is simply part of that structure. You're not manifesting any of this. You're just living with quiet certainty from a structure in which all of it is already true. Here's the teaching. That exact same quiet, settled, of course frequency is the frequency at which real manifestation actually happens. The things you want to bring into your life arrive most easily, not while you're excited about them, not while you're visualizing them with passion, not while you're affirming them with intensity, but once you've quietly, patiently, gradually folded them into the same structure holding the fridge, the light switch, and the keys. Once they've become to you dull facts. Once you no longer feel any need to affirm them because they simply already are. Once they've joined the quiet background of things you take for granted about your own life. At this frequency, the frequency of settled ordinariness, the gatekeeper doesn't push back. The self doesn't resist. The nervous system doesn't tighten up. And the field, meeting zero resistance from your inner world, is finally free to rearrange the outer conditions to match. The manifestation doesn't have to fight its way past your excitement. It simply, quietly, slips through the door of the ordinary that you opened by treating it as already true. This is why the calmest, least theatrical manifestors are the ones who receive most consistently. They're not doing anything unusual. They're simply holding their desires at the frequency of settled ordinariness, the same frequency at which they already hold the fact of the fridge, the light, and the keys. I want to make this completely practical, because if I stop here, you'll hear all of this and go try to perform ordinariness, which isn't the same thing at all. Ordinariness can't be performed. It has to be quietly inhabited. And the way you inhabit it is by shifting the tone of the inner language you use around your desires. First, notice how you've probably been speaking to yourself about the thing you want. Longing has a particular register. It runs slightly high-pitched, slightly urgent, slightly warm. I want this so badly. I need this. When is it finally going to arrive? I hope it comes soon. Please let it come. That's the tone of separation. That's the tone of someone who doesn't yet have. Every time you speak to yourself in that tone about your desire, you're confirming, at the level of tone, that the desire isn't currently part of your settled life. And the gatekeeper listens to the tone, not the words. Now try, in your inner voice, a completely different register. Not louder, not more excited, quieter, flatter, more matter of fact. Say the same thing, but in the register you'd use to note that the bins go out Thursday. Yes, I run my own business now. Yes, we live in that house. Yes, of course. That's just how things are. Feel what happens when you shift the register. The reaching drops away. The gripping loosens. Your inner posture goes casual. And the gatekeeper, which had been standing at the door, with the desire flagged as foreign and overdramatic, quietly lowers its guard, because the incoming statement no longer sounds foreign. It sounds like just another fact. This is the whole mechanical practice. The exact words might stay similar. The register has to change. The tone of the desire has to become the tone of the ordinary. Flat, casual, settled, obvious. Here are a few ways to feel this in your body. Say, in your inner voice, "The sun will come up tomorrow." Notice how you say it. No urgency, no excitement, no pleading whatsoever. Just a quiet statement of an obvious fact. That's the register. Now say, in that exact register, the thing you've been reaching for. "My work is going well. I have plenty of money. I'm with the person I love. My body feels good." Yes, of course. Don't raise the pitch. Don't add heat. Don't treat it like a claim you need to defend. Just state it, quietly, in the register of the sun rising. And notice what happens in your inner state as you do. Done properly, you'll feel a small settling, a small release, a small collapse of the inner distance between you and the thing. That's the mechanism at work. That's the gatekeeper accepting the mundane. That's the assumption sliding, unresisted, into the structure. You don't need to do this with any drama. You don't need long stretches of time for it. A few times a day, in the small, unguarded moments, while the kettle boils, on a walk, standing in a checkout line, quietly, in the register of the sun rising, state the fact of the life you're living. That's enough. That's the entire practice. Done consistently, in a flat register, without excitement, without any performance. This is how the deep structure of the self quietly shifts, and how the outer conditions, faithfully, follow along behind it. Let me hand you something concrete, so this doesn't stay abstract. First, notice the register you've been using about your desire. For one full day, just listen to your own inner voice. Notice the pitch of it whenever you think about the thing you want. Notice the urgency, the heat, the gripping. This noticing alone starts to shift things, because you can't fully inhabit a register you're actively watching. Once you can hear it clearly, you can start changing it. Second, practice. Several times throughout the day, stating your desire in the register of the ordinary. Not during some formal affirmation session, not while sitting in meditation. In the small in-between moments, the checkout line, the kettle, the walk, quietly, in the same register you'd use to note it looks like rain later, state the fact of the life you're choosing to live in. Yes, my work is going well now. Yes, my body feels good. Yes, we live in that home now. Yes, of course. Keep it brief. Keep it quiet. Move on. The whole exchange takes 3 seconds. Do it 3 or 4 times a day. That's plenty. Third, stop celebrating your desire. This one feels backwards, but it's powerful. When you catch yourself getting excited about the thing you want, picturing the moment it finally arrives, feeling the anticipation build, treating it like a huge breakthrough, gently step back from that excitement. Not by suppressing it, but by reminding yourself that excitement is the register of separation, and what you actually want is the register of the ordinary. Return the desire to its quiet, settled spot among the dull facts of your life. Let it rest there, unremarkable, unremarked upon. That's where the real work happens. Fourth, build this ordinary register into the minute right before sleep. In that most receptive minute of your entire day, when the gatekeeper is at its softest and the deep layer of the mind is most open, quietly and casually inhabit the settled facts of the life you're choosing to live in, not with feeling, not with visualization, with the plain of courseness of someone already living inside that life. Let that quiet inhabiting be the last state your awareness rests in as you drift off. The deep layer receives it as instruction and works with it faithfully through the night. Fifth, trust the dull practice. This is the hardest part, because the practice won't feel like it's doing anything at all. That's actually the whole point. If it felt dramatic, it wouldn't be working correctly. The absence of drama is confirmation you're operating at the right frequency. Trust the flat, quiet, undramatic texture of the practice. That's the sound of the gatekeeper letting things through. That's the sound of assumptions settling into place. That's the sound of your life structure quietly starting to shift beneath your feet. 5 things, all small, all quiet, all unremarkable. That's exactly the point. Before I wrap up, I want to share something I hope lands softly, because it's the part of all this that moves me most. There's a specific kind of freedom that shows up once you let your desires become dull. A freedom almost nobody who hasn't tried this can predict in advance. When your desires stay exciting, they're also a source of low-grade suffering. Every time you think about them, you feel a small heat of reaching, a small grip of not yet, a small ache from the gap between where you stand and where you wish to be. Even in their best moments, exciting desires carry a bit of weight. They tug, they demand, they ask something of you every single time you turn toward them. But once your desires go dull, once they settle into the quiet structure of the ordinary, once you carry them the way you carry the fact of the sun rising, the tugging stops, the demanding stops. The small heat softens into a settled warmth. Your desires become, in a way you never realized was possible, restful. You can hold them for hours without any ache at all. You can carry them through the ordinary moments of your day without any weight. You can live inside your own longing without suffering, because that longing has quietly turned into knowing, and knowing doesn't hurt. This is one of the most beautiful side effects of the dull practice. Not just that it manifests things faster, though it does, but that while you're waiting, the waiting itself stops costing you anything at all. The desire has moved onto the shelf of settled facts, and settled facts don't demand your energy. You get to spend that energy on the actual present moment of your actual life instead. On the coffee, on the light coming through the window, on the person standing in front of you, on the small, ordinary sweetness of a Tuesday morning that isn't being spent straining toward a Wednesday you can't yet see. And here's the strange, quiet mercy hidden inside all of it. That present moment, no longer weighed down by the ache of longing, becomes the most fertile ground possible for the very thing you've been reaching for to finally show up. Because now you're living, casually, inside the structure of someone who already has it. And the field, faithful as ever, does exactly what it always does. Quietly, without any drama, in its own time, it arranges the outer conditions to match your inner structure. And then one ordinary morning, months from now, in a moment you won't even be able to pinpoint, you'll look around and realize the thing you had made dull, the thing you had let settle quietly onto that shelf of ordinary facts, has in fact arrived. And you won't feel a burst of excitement. You'll feel, more than anything, a strange, quiet confirmation of something that had already been true inside you for a long while. That's what it looks like when the extraordinary walks in, wearing the clothes of the ordinary, which honestly is the only way it ever really walks in at all. So here's what I want you to carry with you tonight, into every quiet corner of tomorrow. The extraordinary doesn't arrive because you made it dramatic. It arrives because you made it dull. The gatekeeper inside your mind, which has been quietly turning away your excited assumptions for years, doesn't resist the mundane. And the mundane, patiently and repeatedly held, becomes the settled structure of a new self, and eventually, of a new life. Tonight, before you fall asleep, do something that feels like almost nothing. Turn quietly, in your inner voice, toward the thing you've wanted for a long time. And instead of reaching for it, instead of affirming it, instead of visualizing it with excitement, simply state the fact of it. In the register of the sun rising, in the register of your kettle boiling, in the register of your keys sitting exactly where you left them. Yes, of course, that's just how it is. Do this again tomorrow morning, in the small, unguarded moments of your day. No fanfare, no performance. Just quietly, in the register of the ordinary, stating the settled fact of the life you're choosing to inhabit. Let it slide, undramatic and unresisted, past the gatekeeper. Let it fold into the structure. Let it begin its quiet work. And then, as much as you're able, let yourself simply enjoy the ordinary present moment of your actual life. Not because your desires don't matter, because they've moved quietly onto the shelf of things you already know are true, and no longer require your urgent attention. They only need to be lived inside of. Make it dull, and watch it show up. That's the whole teaching. That's the whole practice. And that's exactly what your ordinary, unremarkable, quietly certain Tuesday morning is about to become. Thank you, and good evening. This is Neville Lectures. I'll see you in the next video.